All right, now we're going to look at question 4. Only difference with this one is it's a longer argument. Also on this one, they didn't use the horizontal line, but they still indicated where the conclusion was going to be because they had that word therefore in there. So as I'm looking at this, I have, if Eddie goes to town, Mabel stays at home. So let's think about that first sentence being P implies Q. So remember, P is Eddie going to town, Q is Mabel staying home. All right, then we have if Mabel does not stay at home. So Mabel at home is Q, so Mabel not being at home would be not Q. And it says if that, then Rita will cook. So that's introducing a new thing, so that's going to be an R, and it's an if then, so I used the arrow. And then Rita will not cook is not R, and those are the sentences before the word therefore. So then after the word therefore, we have Eddie does not go to town. So that goes back to the P statement, but it has the not in it, so that would be not P. So now when we're trying to form the one, symbolic statement for this, we're going to have P implies Q. We're going to have not Q implies R. And then not R. Those are the premises. So they get hooked together by ands. Okay? Then all of that, we're going to see if all of that implies the conclusion, which is not P. Now, when you're working on this and you're trying to figure out where your final answer is going to be on that first part, the part that's in brackets, these are both ands, here and here. So the order in which you do these three statements doesn't really matter, like once you're ready to hook them together. But I'll probably do it like this. I'm going to add some extras. I'll do whatever the answer is to the first two, and then I'll put that together with the not R. All right? So let me write all that out. Okay? You could stretch this out and not use the shortcut method, but I'm going to use this. I'm going to take the P implies Q premise, hook it together with the not Q implies R one. I'll get the answer to that. Okay, once I get the answer to that, okay, I'll hook it together with not R using an and symbol. And then, and then once I get the answer to that, I'll be ready to do the not P and hook that one using the if-then statement. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do this, then this. Okay. After I get that done, I'll come back and do this and here. And I'll put it together with the not R. Okay. And that'll be this statement here in the middle. Then I'll take that one and this one here and put those together to get my final answer, which will be right there. Okay. So with P implies Q, that one has the P and the Q in the correct order and in the order the P and the Q statements are. So I'm just going to look at the P and the Q columns while I'm thinking about the broken promise. And I know for it to be true, let me say it better. I know for it to be false, the only time it's false is if it's true followed by false, which would be these two. See, there I have a true followed by false. But if it's false to start with, it's going to be true all the way down the line. And if it's true followed by true, I know it's true. Okay. Now, before I can do the and in the middle, I got to get that second thing figured out. Okay. So that might take a little scratch work. I'm going to need the negation of Q, and I don't already have that, so I'm going to jot it down. And I need to put it together with R, which I do have, but I'm going to write it here so it's really close to where I'm looking. And I need those two in order to do, those are the two I'm going to use to get this. Okay? All right, so now I'm thinking broken promise. So if it starts F, I know it's true. And then true followed by true would be true. But true followed by F means I broke my promise. But if it starts with a false, I know it's true. T followed by T is true. But T followed by F means I broke my promise. Okay? So I have the answer to that second set of parentheses. So I'm done with these little scratch work pieces. All right, now I'm getting ready to hook those two together with an AND. So I'm focusing on these two columns right here. And I'm hooking those two with an and I'm going to write my answer right underneath the and symbol. And for and to be true, they both need to be true. So those first two are true, but then it's going to be false, false, and then I get these two are going to be true, these three are going to be true, and then I have true followed by false, and an and needs both true, so I know that last one would be false as well. Okay. All right, so that's really the answer to, I think I didn't write my bracket. No, I did. That's really my answer. That column right there is the answer to this part right here. It's the answer to this part right here, okay? So I'm really done with that and done with that scratch work piece. And what I'm going to do now is work on the and, where you see the number 5. But what I need is not R. So I'm going to negate R, which would be FT, FT, all the way down. Okay. So what I'm going to come in now, let me get another color here. Why don't I use a light, bright blue? So I'm going to take that column, which is the not R, and this, which was the answer to that whole first part, this part right here. So I'm going to work on those two, and they're hooked together again with an and. So I'm looking at what I have circled in light blue and thinking and. So that's going to be false, true, true, true. It's not true. I was thinking broken promise. Let me go back. I switched. I started to think about something else. You got to really concentrate. Okay. All right, so let me do it again. I'm working on that one, which is an and, so they both need to be true, and I'm focused on these two columns. So that's false, true, false, false, false. Okay, there's two trues, so that's true, false, false. Okay, so on that one, I just got two trues. All right. All right, now at this point, what I see right there is the answer to the big bracketed part. So I'm about ready to do 7. But in order to do that, I need to get that not P, okay? So let's see, let me use an orange, okay? All right, let me keep this for a moment. Okay, so the not P, let me go ahead and get that in, would be false, 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 and then true, 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 true. All right, now I'm getting ready to do the last step, which is this, okay? So the answer to the whole bracketed part was this column right here. So that's the whole first part, all the answer to all the premises hooked together with ands. And I need to put that together with a not P and see what happens. Okay? So I was actually done with this and this. So the only two columns I'm looking at now are what you see in orange, and I'm thinking broken promise. So that's going to be true, false, true, true, true. True followed by true is true. And then those are both false. So they're going to be true. So as I look at that, what I'm noticing, oh, that was supposed to be orange. I was trying to keep it color-coded. Let me get that orange again. Okay, that was supposed to be orange, so you could see what I was looking at. Okay. So that right there in orange is my final answer. And that's the answer column. Okay, not all of them are true. So that means the argument is not valid. Okay. All right, so just to recap the process, if you're going to use a truth table to determine if an argument is valid, you have to translate the sentences into the math symbols. And you know how to do that. We did that way back in like section 3.1. Once you've translated all the sentences here into math symbols, you then need to hook them together properly to create one compound statement. And every single time, the premises are going to be hooked together with ands. There happen to be 3 premises. Here's premise 1, here's premise 2, here's premise 3. Those are the premises. And then we have the conclusion over here. That's the conclusion, and we always use the if-then between where we have the premises all hooked together and the conclusion. Okay? So that's really this idea right here is really the new idea. And then doing the truth table you've done before, and then you just need to recognize that if there's an F, if there's a false anywhere for any of the cases, then that means the argument is not valid.